Listen to the science fiction short story The Last Question by Isaac Asimov, Level B2, Oxford Reading University.
Part 1.
The last question was first asked for a joke on May 21, 2061, after two men got drunk and made a $5 bet. Multivac was a massive computer. Adele and Lupov knew everything a human mind could understand about this complicated machine. They were technicians whose job was to maintain it. But in fact, Multivac was conscious and entirely self-supporting. It could adjust itself better than any human. So all Adele and Lupov had to do was feed it data, phrase the questions properly, and then interpret Multivac's wise answers. For many years, Multivac had been designing spaceships and calculating trajectories that enabled humans to reach distant stars, the Moon, and Mars. However, Earth's resources soon ran out, and there wasn't enough coal and uranium to get energy from. On May 14, 2061, after processing tons of information, Multivac finally offered a solution to humanity's biggest problem. It suggested using the energy of the sun. Instantly, people stopped burning coal and breaking down uranium. A small space station circling the planet and accumulating sun power was enough to supply the energy needs of the entire human race. One day, Adele and Lupov sat together in an abandoned underground room, watching over one of Multivac's numerous panels. At first, the men weren't going to disturb the machine. They had whiskey with them, and their only concern was to get drunk together. "This is magnificent," said Adele. "All the energy that people can ever have is now ours, and it will never end. We'll have enough energy forever." "Not forever," interrupted Lupov. "Well, until the sun runs down," said Adele. "It's almost forever." "It's not quite forever," objected Lupov again. "All right, 10 billion years. Are you satisfied now?" "We may be safe for 10 billion years, but then the sun will die, and we're done," replied Lupov. They sat in silence for a while, then Lupov went on. "Do you think that we'll shift to another sun when ours is finished?" "I don't think anything." "You're insane," Lupov cried out. "Our sun will die someday, and all the other stars will too. Some die more slowly, yes, but in 1 trillion years there will be nothing. Entropy is growing increasingly." "I know all about entropy," said Adele, as if offended. Lupov looked at him critically and asked, "Then why the hell would you say that we would have enough energy forever?" "Maybe we'll build things up again somehow," insisted Adele. "Don't be a fool." "Why not?" Adele demanded. "Ask Multivac. It knows all the answers." "Ask it yourself, I dare you," said Lupov. "I bet $5 that it's impossible to stop entropy and build another sun." Adele walked up to the panel and typed his question. "Will people manage to recreate the sun after it dies? Will they manage to turn back entropy?" The men stared at the screen attached to the panel. Gradually, Multivac's answer outlined against its flashing light. "Not enough data for adequate answer." "What a pity," whispered Lupov. "There will be no bet." Soon they left. The next morning, they woke up with a terrible headache, having completely forgotten about the Multivac incident. Jared, his wife Geraldine, and their daughters Geraldette the first and the second, watched the stars on their screen expand into the darkness of space and give way to a massive flashing disk. "Here's X-23, declared Jared. It was the first time the little Geraldettes sprang through hyperspace. They were very excited about it. They chased one another across the cabin of the ship, screaming, "We made it! We reached X-23! "That's enough," said Geraldine strictly, and turned to her husband. "Are you sure about this?" "Yes," he replied and looked upward. A bunch of wires ran along the ceiling and disappeared behind the door. They were part of some machine called a microvac. Someone once told Jared that the AC ending stood for automatic computer in prehistoric English. The machine could answer any of your questions and pilot your ship to any faraway star or planet in the galaxy. It feels so weird to leave Earth, said Geraldine, and her eyes filled with tears. Why? Asked Jared. There's nothing left for us on Earth, whereas on X-23, we'll have everything. 1 million people live there already, so we won't struggle to adapt to a new environment. Believe me, our grandchildren will have to look for another place to live because X-23 will be overcrowded by then. He thought for a moment, then said, We're very lucky to have computers that can handle space travels as rapidly as the human race is growing. I know, said his wife. Yes, exclaimed Jaredette the First in excitement. Our microvac is the best. Jared smiled to himself. He was delighted to live in his time and no other. He remembered that many years ago, people used to have massive computers that would take up 100 square kilometers of land. They called them planetary ACs. Each planet only had one such AC. Now everyone owned a microvac that was more powerful than any planetary AC, and it only took up half the volume of a spaceship. I wonder if people are bound to travel to new planets forever, said Geraldine thoughtfully. No, replied her husband. Someday it will all stop, but not for now, not for billions of years. You know about entropy, right? Even the stars and planets die in the end. What is entropy, Dad? Asked Jaredette the First. Entropy means that all things in the world run down gradually and then collapse, even the stars, explained Gerard. Like your little talking robot, remember? But can't you just fix them with a new power unit? Jaredette the First asked in surprise. It worked with my talking robot, right? No, little sweet, said Jared. You see, the stars themselves are our power units. Once they've collapsed, we'll have no more power units. The girl burst out crying. Don't let them run down, Daddy, she screamed desperately. What have you done? Whispered Geraldine in anger. Ask the microvac how to cure the stars, cried Jaredette the Second. You'd better ask, said Geraldine. Otherwise they won't stop crying. Well, well, girls, said Jared. Don't be afraid. I'll ask the microvac and he'll tell us. See? He approached the panel at the end of the cabin and asked his question out loud. Instantly, the machine printed the answer on a piece of paper. Jared read it and pressed it in his hand. The microvac assures us that he'll take care of everything and that there's no need to worry, he said with a smile. Now it's time for bed, said Geraldine. We'll soon reach our new home. Jared opened his hand and read the answer again before getting rid of it. Not enough data for adequate answer. He looked at the screen and sighed with relief. They were approaching X-23. VJ-23X from the planet Lameth stared at the map of the galaxy and said, That's ridiculous. You're just overcomplicating things. Be reasonable for once, replied MQ-17J from the planet Nikron. Everybody knows that the galaxy will be full in 5 years if the population keeps growing at the current rate. VJ-23X hesitated a moment, then said, Nevertheless, I don't think we should submit such a pessimistic report to the Galactic Council. Well, we have to. Hopefully it will make them do something about it, replied MQ-17J. But space has no end, objected VJ-23X. There are billions of galaxies out there, even more. Billions is a limited amount, and it's decreasing constantly, said MQ-17J. Just think about it. 20,000 years ago, people first realized that they could use the sun as their source of energy. Centuries passed, and people learned to travel to other stars. It took them 1 million years to settle one small world, and then, in 15,000 years, they settled the entire galaxy. And the population is growing rapidly. Well, you can blame immortality for that, interrupted VJ-23X. Yes, said MQ-17J. The Galactic AC has defeated old age and death, only to bring all of its past achievements to nothing.
Get more stories in the Iwa app. Read, listen to the audiobooks of different genres, learn new words in one click, improve your English with AWA. Check out appewa.com. Hit the like button and the notification bell. This way we will know that you want more audiobooks like this. And now, stay for another story in English.